Petticoats. History's bonus skirt since the 14th century. A key component of historical fashions, they could give an extra pop of fashion and color, warmth in colder months, and structure for your style. The shape of petticoats changed with the fashions and helped define iconic silhouettes. And if you were in the Edwardian era, they often had copious amounts of frills and lace. I'm planning an Edwardian lingerie dress for this summer, and petticoats played a large role in the shaping of those lightweight, flowy skirts. So, I kind of need one. Now, I have made an Edwardian-ish history-bounding petticoat in the past. In fact, it was one of the very first historically inspired sewing projects I ever made back in 2020. It's made with the leftover polycotton pieces from cutting the gores for the skirt of my Shindig Kaylee cosplay. And if you take a close look, you can definitely see signs of a early sewing journey, before my stitches got more refined. Now, this is a perfectly usable petticoat, and it does its job well, but I'm ready for something that reflects my sewing skills now, and let's be honest, I want something with a little more frill and frippery. For this petticoat, I was able to use a vintage cotton muslin tablecloth from my stash. I'm using my walking skirt pattern as the main part of the base, but I'm cutting it short to allow for the addition of a ruffle at the bottom. And a lot of the pieces look very similar, so before cutting them out, I made sure to label them to prevent future confusion. And since I had taken my fabric shears in to be sharpened literally the day before I decided to start this project, we must break out the shears of destiny. Okay, they lasted all of one panel before I swapped to a pair of craft scissors. The shears of destiny may look awesome, but really aren't comfortable for cutting fabric. Then I cut out a wide straight grain strip, double the length of the hem of the skirt pieces. I was able to get a good portion of it cut on the selvage edge, which will cut down on hemming time later. The additional pieces of the ruffle get a narrow, almost rolled hem at the bottom. I stitched the ruffle pieces together, apparently off camera, before assembling the upper skirt portion. The center back gets seamed together starting 10 inches below the waistline to allow for a closure. An Edwardian sewing project calls for an Edwardian machine. I always jump at the chance to use my 1916 Singer. It's so satisfying. Most of the seams on this petticoat are finished with a French seam. I have a slight love-hate relationship with French seams. I love how handy they are, but sewing them is kind of a pain in the butt. The center back is the only seam I didn't French seam because of the split. Instead, I turned under each side and felled down the raw edges. Yes, all the footage of this is me pinning. I was on the road and forgot a tripod and missed getting any actual stitching. The hem edge on the upper skirt gets a rolled hem, and I used a matching silk thread. Yes, you can use beeswax on silk thread, it just reduces the shine a little bit. Then I attach the waistband to the top edge. The top edge of the ruffle needs a hem as well, and I elected to do this by hand. Yes, it did take several hours. One of the really nice things about this cotton fabric is just how well it presses. I could fold it over by hand and press it down with a fingernail and get a super crisp, narrow edge that stayed put. And now it's time for lace. I had this really cute scalloped lace that I originally bought for another project, but it didn't quite match the fabric, so we're finally putting it to good use. I set the lace 1.5 inches from the top edge and 1 inch from the bottom edge, using the top of the scallops as my guide. And then I realized I still had a whole bunch of the lace left over. Enough, in fact, to add a middle row. Once again, my antique machine proved its weight in gold. Being hand crank means I get exactly the precision I need. My modern machine goes so fast, I don't think it could have handled the scallops like this. This way, I could go in and out on exactly the line I wanted. Then it's time to cut the fabric open, very carefully. I initially tried to stitch down the lace and finish the hem edges through the machine, but I couldn't get close enough to both catch the fabric and secure the frilly edges of the lace to my satisfaction. So we are back to hand sewing. I used some strong silk thread, and since this is a shiny thread, I used the beeswax trick to my advantage, dulling down the sheen to help it blend into the lace. And cue hours and hours of whip stitching. Traditionally, the raw edges of the hems here weren't turned under, as it would have added too much bulk. Instead, they were just turned back and either running stitched or overcast by hand. Once all the lace was secure, I tried my hand at pin tucks. These I mostly measured, but also let a little bit of historical imperfection take over, so there is some variance in the final result. I did 2 sets of tucks, 1 set between the top and middle lace, and 1 set between the middle and bottom lace. Then they all get pressed into place. Ooh, now that is satisfying right there. Then I ran gathering threads along the top edge using unwaxed silk thread, and I made sure to do this in multiple stages so that if a thread happened to break, it would only affect one section of the ruffle, not the whole length. I decided to finish the waistband before adding the ruffle, so I pressed and turned it to the wrong side of the skirt. I used the tutorial from Sew Historically to finish my petticoat, making eyelets near the back of the skirt for gathering. Then I added a length of narrow twill tape to either side, near the side seam. The tapes get crossed over and threaded through the opposite eyelet to allow for easy gathering. Then I felled down the waistband, making sure everything was secured in place, but the tapes could still freely move inside. Then it was time to gather the ruffle and pin it to the skirt. Yes, I am sewing over my pins here, but very carefully. I kept a good eye on my needle to avoid any breakage. And with the ruffle sewn on, the petticoat is complete and ready to wear with some historical walking skirts. And there we have an Edwardian petticoat. I am so happy with how it turned out. It's so cute. And my budget loves that I was able to make it with fabric and lace that I already had in my stash. I'll definitely still use my old petticoat from time to time. And you know, I've got more lace in my stash. I might just add some frills to it as well. But having a more historically accurate petticoat is going to be awesome. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and if you want to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing. I do have plans to make an Edwardian lingerie dress to go with this petticoat, so get ready for even more frills and lace this summer. And I will see you soon with more geekery meets history sewing adventures. Ready, 1, 2, 3, here we go. An extra pop of fashion. Wow. Structure for your style. And it's sunny. Component of historical fashions throughout. Fluff. Perfectly usable petticoat, and it doesn't. Oh, sunshine. Why must you be sunny? Mess up my shots. I have an audience. What you doing? Are you watching? Are you watching?